meeting to order at 10:05 a.m. It is good to see everybody. Dr. Leslie, if we could have a roll call, please.
Anita Locklear.
Present.
Calvin Locklear.
Present.
Will Paul.
Present.
Stephen Bell.
Present.
Tamara Carter.
Present.
Stacy Lynch. Angelique Jacobs.
Present.
Kristen Oxendine.
Present.
Jeremiah Moore.
Present.
Candace Rivels.
Present.
Dorothy Yates.
Present.
Representative Edward Goodwin. Representative Lowry. Dr. LaRonda Lowry.
Present.
Dr. Tiffany Locklear.
Present.
Dr. Olivia Oxendine.
Present.
Chair, we have quorum.
Thank you, Dr. Leslie. Well, good morning, everyone. Again, it is good to see you all. Thanks for braving the weather, braving the flu season. I know it has been quite an interesting last couple of weeks. I know for Guilford County, managing all of that. So thank y'all for taking time to be here today. We need to approve the agenda, approve our November 2025 minutes, and then we'll jump into celebrating what excellence we've seen in our district. So can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
This is Dorothy Yates. I so move to approve the agenda.
Do I have a second?
Candace Rivels, I second.
All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, so moved. We have approved the agenda for February 6th, 2026. Can I also get a motion to approve the November 2025 minutes?
Angelique Young offers such a motion to approve the minutes.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Jeremiah Moore, I second that.
And all in favor of approval, say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, so moved. We have approved the November 2025 minutes, Dr. Leslie. Thanks, everyone. Before we get into Mr. Gregg's updates, I would love to hear from folks. What are you seeing in your district? How are we celebrating Native excellence, whether that be students, staff, your Title VI programs, any families to shout out? I'll start with one. We just had our district science fair, and one of our students, Cadence, who is Nietzsche, did a great job representing. She's not moving on to the state level, but really proud of her and all the work that she did for that. So anybody else, feel free to come off mute or please share now.
Hi, this is Anita Locklear. I have a celebration to share. Our Johnson County Indian Education Program had our first display table at the Heritage Celebration back in November to try to advertise our program. And since then, we've had several new families and students to join, and we are seeing participation grow. So we're excited about that.
This is Candace Rivels. I just want to shout out our high school students that are participating in a CTE initiative. We're workforce solutions, and so they are going to have summer internships and summer work. And we've seen an increase. So this was an initiative that we partnered with CTE on to specifically increase the Native American enrollment in this program. So we're seeing those numbers grow now. So that's exciting.
Tamara Carter, Columbus County Schools. I want to give a shout out to one of our high school seniors, Miss Malia Graham, basketball all-star, and she has been selected to participate in the Carolina Classic All-Star game.
Kristen Oxendine, Scotland County Schools. Want to give a shout out to two of our staff members, Shannon Brayboy and Tara Hancock for presenting to our academic coaches about how to incorporate American Indian history in social studies classrooms.
Anybody else? All right. Well, thank you all for sharing. As I've shared for the last few meetings, wanting to align that to the work that Superintendent Mo Green is doing to celebrate the excellence in public schools. So thank you all for supporting that and just starting us off on a good note. With that, we will transition to hear from Mr. Greg Richardson on updates from the Commission of Indian Affairs. Mr. Greg, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Chairman Bell, and thank you all SACE members for all the work that you do in North Carolina to make our state a state of excellence in Indian education. You all do a great job, and I'm so pleased to hear about the way that you're celebrating excellence this morning. And the shout outs that you gave was certainly inspirational, and I think that also says a lot for everyone at the table, as well as our students, giving them an opportunity to participate in Indian Ed programs and to get recognition within their classes and in their counties is so excellent, I think. Thank you again, Stacey and Stephen, and the council members for inviting me again to provide an update this morning. I will provide some general comments about some things that are going on. But first of all, I wanted to start with Lumbee recognition. I know everybody's very excited about that. That is the #1 item across the board in our state and perhaps in certain areas of the nation in terms of Lumbee recognition being granted and all that goes with that. You know, 137 years of working towards that. Now the 575th federally recognized tribe in the United States. And certainly that's going to make a difference for the tribe itself in many, many ways. But you know what? It's going to make a difference in our state because it's going to make us that much more stronger in terms of the benefits and services that's going to bring into our state, in particular the Lumbee community, southeastern North Carolina, and for decades to come. So we're just so elated and pleased that that's happening in our state. And it's something that I think we should be proud of in another way, in that for all this time that has taken for Lumbee to gain federal recognition, we know that our other tribes are battling some of the same issues that Lumbee had to battle all of those years in terms of their journey to gaining federal recognition. So I think that there is something to be learned from all of that, as well as our other tribes. I had the opportunity to look and sit in on a session a week or so ago where Chairman Lowry spoke, and where Orlando Locklear, Jody Cummings, Dr. A.C. Locklear, very high-level professionals in the United States that have worked in conjunction with various aspects of federal recognition in their own specialty areas. And what was so powerful to me about that, they walked through the process in terms of, well, what happens next with Lumbee recognition? If anyone who hasn't seen that have not, I would highly recommend that you do that. I'm getting ready to send out a notice over my system here to all of the tribes, all of our leaders, with that link. It's a YouTube link. I would encourage everyone to look at that because it really provides some very powerful information in terms of understanding of what is going to be taking place and what happens next with Lumbee recognition. But for the other tribes, they can also see from that what will be rolling out for their tribes once they're gaining federal recognition. So how to recommend that we place that item on our radar screen and talk it up, get people to go look at that, because it can save a lot of time. It can help the tribe too, because one of the things that we're seeing and we're hearing a lot about, there's a lot of questions from tribal members. There's a lot of questions from other citizens in the state in terms of what this really means. I have 2 letters on my desk today that I'll be responding to from one tribal member, Lumbee, that is not living in the area, person who's not been closely connected with the tribe. So we're going to be able to connect that person with the tribal enrollment office because they're concerned about now getting their tribal enrollment card. Another person really is not sure about whether they're connected with Lumbee or not, but they think they are due to their family ties and lineage. But we can't answer that question for them. That question has to go to the tribal enrollment office. So to take away for a lot of the things that are flowing right now in the questions, these are things that only the appropriate staff, appropriate people within the Lumbee tribe can answer. And one of the overarching questions is just out there everywhere is when will the money start flowing? You know, the typical question that I get here is that, well, when are we going to start getting our checks? When will the government start sending our checks? In one of the letter I got that I referenced earlier, the person who is writing to me, his mother died, and he's trying to figure out if he can get his benefit check sent to another family member. Well, that's all estate type stuff. I don't know what will happen there in terms of Lumbee processes and all that. But even so, those are matters that has to be referred back to the Lumbee leadership. And so I just wanted to start out with, shout out with that from my end in terms of federal recognition for Lumbee, and starting immediately, there's going to be a number of activities occurring that celebrates that. On the 24th of February, the governor is opening up the mansion for a reception, but it's a reception for folks that are being invited. It's by invitation only, and a lot of you on this in this meeting today should have already received an invitation by virtue of what you're doing in terms of your work with Indian education. So we don't get to determine who's going to, at the end of the day, get an invitation, but we do know this is going to be a high-level celebration of recognition for the Lumbee, and we're just so pleased that Governor Stein is going to open up the executive mansion for that. Going to move to the Indian Unity Conference and also keep that theme going as far as Lumbee recognition. The conference is March the 4th through the 7th at the Hilton in Raleigh. And there's an additional day added to the conference this year. So it's going to be a 4-day event starting on Wednesday, March the 4th with the commission meeting. And then we roll right into the conference activities for the next several days. Information about the Indian Unity Conference is posted on the United Tribes website, and you can just go do a search for the 2026 North Carolina Indian Unity Conference using your search mechanism, and you'll go right to the Indian Unity Conference information, which includes registration, workshop information, where you can actually submit nominations for veteran awards and community service awards and those kind of things. So Veterans Awards, the end date is the 14th, and Monday, the 9th, I believe the 9th is Monday. Either way, the Community Service Awards close out on Monday, the 9th. And so after that, the nominations will be screened for the Community Services Award, and a decision will be made in terms of who would be receiving the awards. And at this point, for Lumbee recognition, John Lowry has been tagged as a speaker for the banquet on Friday night, March 6th at the banquet. So the Lumbee recognition and the trial will be given another opportunity to highlight federal recognition during that setting. And to cap it all off, we received confirmation that Governor Stein is going to be attending the Indian Unity Conference, and we're just waiting right now for the exact date and time that he will be attending or showing up at the conference. So wanted to get that out there as well. So just a lot going on today, and we're just so pleased that we've got an opportunity to have a lot going on. It's very, it says a lot for our state and it says a lot for our people. So the other thing that impacts the SACE today, I wanted to mention that we have a vacancy on the SACE coming up June 30th. The Commission's Education Committee sent out notices about that, and the nominations for folks who would fill the vacancy, that's all in process right now. And it's my understanding that there are some opportunities for folks that are currently in or serving on SACE that they can serve another term. So within the parameters of the rules and all that, the nominations go to the Commission's Education Committee. And on March 4th at the Indian Commission meeting, those nominations will be addressed and approved. And then following that, that action, nominations will be sent over to the Board of Education, to you all, for final authority approval, because the actual approval lies with the Board of Education. So Olivia, you all would be looking out for that information to come in shortly after the Indian Unity Conference. We have gone through a couple of things recently. You probably know all about the federal shutdown. We dropped down to 3 employees. At one point during the government shutdown, everybody's back on board. Our funding is back in place. We're just so pleased that we're able to keep functioning. We had a prospect of another shutdown over the weekend, and it turned out that Congress voted, so we're not in a shutdown mode again. So we're very pleased about that. We do have a vacancy at the commission, which closes today. That is the deputy director position here at the commission. So hopefully that word's got around to everyone, and that we'll have some good applicants to choose from once the applicants are sent over to us from the Human Resources Department. So that's pretty much it, Chair, and I'll yield to you and anyone else on the council that might have a question right now.
Thank you, Mr. Gregg. Any questions in the audience? Just want to reemphasize what Mr. Gregg was talking about with our SACE nominations. We do have, I was just looking at the message, we have 2 educator openings and 2 parent openings. So if you know anyone, the deadline February 15th. I'm sure Dr. Leslie's got the application. I've got it. I'm sure Mr. Gregg's got it. So just reach out to any of us and we'd be happy to forward it to you.
And those, Chair, those nominations flow to laura.chavis@doa.nc.gov here at the commission. She serves as the staff support person to the Education Committee, so she's processing those applications. And
great. Yeah, thank you.
One final note that I made here that I wanted to present this morning too, and it's a combination of a comment and a question. I've talked with Ms. Dorothy Crow about this, and she's on the Education Committee. There seems to be something we need to look at with the process for folks applying for SACE. So we have a situation now where if you're already serving on the council, you're already serving on SACE, and you're eligible to serve another term, now the process requires everyone to resubmit an entire package for reappointment. And I know that there had to be some rationale behind that when that policy was put in place, but I would recommend that you take a look at that now, because it seems to be a little burdensome to me and some other folks in terms of, if you're already at the seat, you're already at the table, and you've already received approval through your school system, you got travel support already, letters in your packet, you're already sitting at the table. So why would we require a person who already has that in place to submit a whole new package if you're eligible to be reappointed? Now, everything else I would say should stay in place, because you want to have people at the table that have the support of their school system, have the support of their community, their tribe, et cetera, et cetera. But if you're already sitting there and no one is concerned about your service on SACE, then I would think that we would yield to the point where we wouldn't require them to have to submit a whole new application in order to be reconsidered for reappointment. So I would just ask that you maybe think about that, Chair. It's not my role to get into the business of the policy of this, but I'm just sending something forward as an observation. I think that would help the process. It would speed up the process. It would certainly be less bureaucratic to do that. But I would, again, just a reminder, all the other processes work very well when you have the nominations process moving forward, getting the letters of support from the tribes, the communities. All that is good and should still remain in place. So I thank you for this opportunity. You all keep up the good work, and look forward to seeing you at the Indian Unity Conference in a couple of weeks.
Thank you, Mr. Gregg, especially for that comment. I had to just do that this past year in terms of getting a whole new packet together. So I'll work with Dr. Leslie, and we'll see what we can do to figure out what we need to do to make that a new policy. I was under the impression that was y'all's decision. So thank you for sharing that with us. So We'll be in touch about that. And that makes a lot of sense to see if we can cut down on some paperwork and just extra hoops to jump through.
Absolutely. Thank you all. And so good to hear you all voice and see your names on the screen this morning, getting out in the cold weather, being there, supporting the work and the needs of our Indian education efforts in North Carolina. Thank you so much. Take care.
All right. You too, Mr. Gregg. Have a good weekend.
Thank you.
All right. Next up, we've got Dr. Olivia Oxendine providing us with some State Board of Education updates. Good morning, Dr. Olivia.
Good morning, Chair Bell, and good morning to all of you on SACE. And also, it's always good to see my friend from many years back. We've been on this path of Indian education for a long time, Mr. Richardson. Before I go into my presentation, let me just comment on the process point that Mr. Richardson brought up just a second ago. I think it is a good idea for Dr. Locklear to check, do a little bit of historical research on that policy. That is new to me. I'm not sure if it's something tied to the reappointment process for all advisory boards with the Department of Public Instruction and the State Board of Education. The state board has, I would say, maybe 12 to 15 advisory boards. So we'll investigate and do some historical research and come up with an answer to that. So I'll go into my presentation. It is pertaining to the CTE Career Technical Education Credentialing Report. And I'm going to preface this by saying I have recommended already to Dr. Leslie that she invite Trey Michael. You see his name. He's Senior Director of the Office of Career Technical Education, and any member of his staff that he would like to invite to come and present to SACE in the very near future. Please know before I begin this presentation that I am not doing a just job to this presentation. He and his team presented to the state board the past 2 days. This is a remarkable study. It is an annual report that must go over to the General Assembly. It's one of those JLOC reports. The Joint Legislative Education Oversight Committee receives just a bounty of reports from the State Board of Education. And this is just one of them. I'm going to give you just a nutshell of what we heard this week that is fabulous. Why is it important for SACE to know this? Because it's important that we realize, and I'm sure that you do, that every student is not interested for a variety of reasons of pursuing a 4-year degree. We have endless opportunities in our community colleges, pathways there, but we have I call a gold standard opportunity for students in second and middle grades and high school to choose paths other than a 4-year path. So just to give you a nutshell of what we heard the last 2 days, this is and I'm going to do a little bit of reading, so bear with me. Across North Carolina, CTE students have earned a reported 20, you see the number, 2,992,831 credentials since 2010, 2011. A credential, there's a definition of it below. Students enrolled in a CTE course with an aligned industry recognized credential can prepare for and earn one or more credential certifications. A credential isn't a license, but it is a designation saying the course that the student has taken within a pathway, within a cluster, has the rigor and has the other characteristics that put that student on a track for employability. That doesn't guarantee employability, but it says this student is like career ready or job ready to go to the next step. So in the public school, a PSU, you know that we've moved away from the language of LEA, local education agency, and we're now, your school districts are referred to as PSUs, is used to calculate credential attainment rate. And many factors impact, this is where we get into the discussion of equity. Factors impact the student's ability to attain credentials. And much of that has to do with our schools and our rural populations struggle to have the funds and the other resources to offer the courses that are credential earning courses. So we're always, you know, the question about, well, why isn't my student able to earn credentials, or why isn't my school? And some of it goes back to rural and poverty and disadvantagement. So if we can go a little bit further into the to the report, a credential can be earned through a written, oral, or performance-based exam, or a combination of both. It requires supervised work. Sometimes, oftentimes the instructor, and sometimes the credential may move into the area of requiring an apprenticeship. So the supervision would be jointly shared between the CET instructor, teacher, and perhaps whoever is the supervisor or the manager in the job or the location where the apprenticeship is taking place. So here we go again with the difference. A credential differs from a license. They're typically is a license which is typically issued by a government entity. For instance, government entity, we would be the State Board of Education would be an example of a government entity, but we approve the licenses of our educators. So a license are often required for practitioners in a field. A cosmetologist must have a license, a barber must have a license, electrician, a plumber, so on and so forth. Credentials help employees get hired or qualify for higher pay. So this is where it gets important for North Carolina. By the way, I want to make note that North Carolina is on the national map in our CTE program. We are third to, above us is, in terms of credentialing, I should say. Ahead of us is the state of Texas, much larger than North Carolina, I might say. And then ahead of Texas is California, much larger than, well, somewhat larger than Texas, certainly larger than North Carolina. So look, we're number 3 compared to some big states in terms of the percentage of our students earning credentials. So since 23-24 and 24-25 academic years, we have stayed at 15.9 million. That is just from state funds, and then the local districts also kick in with funding. The bulk of the funding for CTE comes from the federal government, and the legacy funding source is called the Perkins Act. And it goes back to, actually, I think it's 1918. It goes way back to, I think Carl Perkins was in Congress at the time. And, you know, those were the days when North Carolina and much of the South, we were very agrarian in nature. And the federal government just knew that we had to pump a lot of money into the rural states and the rural communities to better educate not just students, but farmers. So the Perkins is the legacy piece of legislation that continues to fund CTE. So with ongoing support from North Carolina General Assembly, increased emphasis on credential attainment, by CTE leaders. North Carolina continue to set records by earning, if you'll scoot down a bit, reporting 382,000, close to 400,000 credentials, 59% of the available credentials. That means how many credentials are available to a school district. Okay, so of that available to the school district, then it almost gets to effort. Then how many of those credentials are being awarded or are being students are taking an opportunity to attain those credentials. So who's involved in effort? Your CTE coordinator, and according to Trey Michael and his team this past week, the most critical person in a school. We don't have funding for CTE coordinators in the middle. Well, I'm not sure. I better hold off on that. I do know that we have funds available to hire CTE coordinators in our high schools. So that person, along with your school counselors, along with the CET instructors and faculty members, they're the ones who are connecting with the students, and they're saying, look at this opportunity, think about it. We want to get you in these courses so you can begin filling your wallet. And that's a term that's used in credential, filling your wallet with credentials. And I believe I heard Trey Michael say that when a student, they may be working on some kind of digital wallet to give students, and upon receiving their high school diploma, when they walk across the stage to earn their they're also, I think I heard him say they would also be given their digital wallet of credentials, which I find fascinating. So let's take a look at the various tiers. There are 3 tiers of credentials, and that determines a lot of it determines not necessarily the value of the credential, but I suppose the level of rigor and its transferability to the world of work. So tier 1 is a credential considered foundational, gives students the opportunity to earn industry recognized, and it's like a starting point in the acquisition of credentials. And then we move to tier 2. This is kind of moving up a level. These are springboard or door opener certificates that sometimes are listed in industry vacancy notices. And again, it gives the students an edge when they're seeking a job to put in their resume or their application under skills, and let's say the skills that they have acquired or their background experiences, whatever shows up in the application, then they can include that. But look at this. Teachers, your CTE teachers, receive a $25 bonus for each tier 2 credential earned by their students. So there's a little bit of competition, worthy competition going on when the student, when you have counselors, CTE coordinators, and I don't know that probably the bonus goes directly to the CET teacher, but it incentivizes everyone in the process to encourage our students. 4-year college may not be for you. You may want to graduate and hit the world of work. So here's pathway. And then tier 3, this is kind of I consider this the kind of the most kind of graduate level, or the advanced certificates. 3-year credentials are advanced, often required for employment and used to maximize starting salaries and earn long-term earnings. So take a look at this. So CET teachers are incentivized at a little bit, a 50% increase here. Teachers get a 50% bonus for each tier credential earned by their students. You're probably saying, what is the source of these funds? Again, I'm not sure whether this is coming from federal funds. It could be a combination of the Perkins money, or it could be Perkins plus state dollars that come from the General Assembly. But anyway, there's money awarded, bonus money awarded. And then if we go further into the precinct, now this is where it becomes applicable to SACE. So what I did, this is very high level. This is the reason I want Trey Michael to come to one of your SACE meetings to really disaggregate this information, because what I'm giving you is just high level information in terms of the school systems, the PSUs that either have a Title VI programs or there's a healthy number of Indian students in the school district. And I hope I've included all of the counties that are represented in on SACE. So if we take a look, and we've got some of, like Tara is here, and she can speak up for Columbus, and we've got Candace from Cumberland County. Thank you, Candace. You made some statements a few minutes ago about workforce solutions and doing, really targeting American Indian students to encourage them to get on the CTE path. Good for you. By the way, I don't want to, I might be stealing your thunder, Candace, but you can also say this again and maybe say it super loudly. Your county is one of the tops in the state for credential earning, Cumberland County. Cumberland County has a legacy CTE program, has always been way at the top when it comes to outstanding CTE coordinators. Always has been the case. But let's take a look at this. Columbus had earned 1806, the potential 1485, so the percent attainment is 72%. Good for you, Columbus. That's high. That means somebody's working hard in the CTE arena to encourage students to get on track. You can see Whiteville is attaining at a 45% rate, Cumberland 60% rate. Graham, we have, I don't know how many Eastern Band Cherokee kids go there, but I do know that the Qualla Boundary the reservation itself does touch on Jackson, Graham, and Swain County. So Graham, that's pretty good, Graham. Guilford, we have 69.7. Stephen, that's good job. Hertford, I'm not sure if Hertford is in the mix with IEA funds. I'm not sure, but I do believe Hertford is where a high percentage of the Meherrin tribe is located. Anyway, okay, let's look at Meherrin, 62%. That shows good effort. Hoke County, 69%. Good for you, Hoke. You're doing great. Again, Hoke County historically has always had a strong CET initiative, so you're staying on track. Jackson, 42.3. Again, Jackson is part of the land base for the Qualla Boundary. Johnson County, 51%. Very good. Charlotte Meck, 39. Person, 58.1, over 50%. Terrific. Richmond, go Richmond, 75.7. Robinson, 40.8. Scotland, 57.6, over 50. Good. I get confused about Sampson. I don't know if Sampson tribe has IEA or if it's, I'm not sure. But anyway, here's the data for Sampson County is earning a little bit over 50, attaining over 50%. Clinton City, pretty good, Clinton, 72. Swain, 42. Wake, I'm sorry, I've got to get Wake. I'll fill in that blank before this meeting ends. And then Warren County is, and I'm not sure if Warren has an IEA. I'm not sure about that. But anyway, I do believe Halawasapani students are enrolled in that district, 87.8. But let's go back to Halifax. I may have overlooked Halifax. Halifax Halifax has 279. Potential is 1106. And they've earned 276. Potential is 1106. So they're 23.2%. And again, I'll grab the Wake data for you. So that is the report. Again, high level, certainly haven't gone into the deep details of this report. And but Trey Michael can do that for you at an upcoming meeting. Do you have any questions?
I've got a question, Dr. Livy, just a point of clarification. So these numbers are out of all of the students within these school districts, or are these just American Indian students?
No, these are all the students. But what I did to begin a little bit of focusing in on Indians, I wanted to just cover the counties where IEA projects are located.
Got it.
So you can extrapolate from that, but what I would say rather, you can say, well, I wonder, maybe, Tara, can you speak to the number, for instance, in Columbus County, and also Candace in Cumberland County? Can you speak to what are the numbers of American Indians taking, earning credentials?
So I don't have an updated number, but I know that we were scheduling a time to meet with our CTE Special Populations Coordinator. In the past, we've had anywhere from like 60 to 80 students in the high school, about 10 through 12th grade in those CTE courses. And what we were looking at was the completion rate of those credentials.
Okay.
So, yeah. And I have previous year's reports of that, but I don't have an updated report. But just information of how we started was actually our CTE department came to us and said, we see a deficit in American Indian students applying or enrolling in CTE courses and being completers of those tracks. And because they have to report on their numbers, they were being held responsible or held accountable. And so we worked with our department, getting our employees to understand why CTE was important and how this could benefit the students, as well as just telling the parents why it's important to enroll in these courses. And it was honestly a lot of just advocacy work. And then the students, once they got enrolled in the courses, they were hooked because they found things that they liked. They found things that they were good hands-on, things that fit their career paths. And so a lot of the students, I know you spoke about, students attending 2-year community colleges, but we were seeing an increase in students starting out in those 2-year programs, getting all those credentials, but then moving forward to continue on into 4-year programs as well.
Very good. Thank you. Candace, do you have anything to add to that?
I think I fell in love with CTE because all around it's it meets the child as a whole. And so they start in 5th grade with where we are in Cumberland. I know most programs are similar, but they just hosted a college and career fair at the Crown Coliseum, and thousands of students came in and was able to do hands-on career exploration with several hundreds of companies, businesses, community colleges, all kinds of community partners. So yeah, just I can't rave enough about CTE and the partnership that we have with them.
Very good. That's very good commercial for CTE. But Chair Bell, to go back to your question, no, this is not broken out by, in other words, Columbus County. All American Indian students earn that, up to represented in that 72%. But I wanted to zero in on the counties where we do have American Indian students enrolled. And then from that, we could begin asking questions. Well, okay, what percentage of American Indians are represented in these numbers? So, and Trey Michael would be the one to provide that information. Do you have, and I certainly want to, I am so impressed in the depth of the curriculum in terms of the offerings, course offerings, and career pathways that the CTE program makes available to our school, high school, middle high school, and our students. It is absolutely mind-boggling. I don't know that Dr. Locklear, I don't know if you can pull up, there's a graphic that shows the number of clusters, the number of pathways. There we go. There it is. So this gives you, it's a challenge to see the fine print, but this is an overview of the CTE curriculum. So you see you've got manufacturing, you've got construction, you've got transportation, health and human services, public service, digital technology. I'm only hitting those that I can read. Arts, something, Then you have energy and material. Well, anyway, those are your pathways, and then you have clusters underneath those. So when you get down to the clusters, you're really focused, really it's pathways clusters. You're really getting down to the kind of the actual course level. So again, it's an opportunity that we have really got to energize and draw attention to, and help our students realize, look, there's more to, there's more to post being a graduate, high school graduate. There's more options in our 4-year program. I'm not putting down 4-year education at all, but it isn't for everyone. So unless you have other questions, comments, that concludes my report, Chair Bell.
Dr. Otson, this is Tamara with Columbus County. I don't have our exact numbers. Our CTE person's been out this week, but I did just want to chime in and mention that we do have a high population of participation. And also this year, we're doing something new. We're having our first ever Careers on Wheels in partnership with Southeastern Community College, and that will target grades K through 8. So we're starting really, really early as far as those career paths.
Very good. Thank you, Ms. Carter.
Thank you, Dr. Olivia, for this information. I don't have our Guilford County School enrollment for our American Indian students, but this data is helpful for me to take and meet with our CTE department. I think something that just for you to kind of hear what some of our students are saying, and I'm curious if other districts are seeing the same thing, is that a lot of our students are sharing that counselors aren't sharing a lot of these opportunities with our kids. And so it's almost like we're creating these, this communication barrier from families and students to enroll in not just CTE courses, but I'm also thinking CCP programs and GAP programs, our apprenticeship programs. So just something just to kind of put on your radar. I don't know if anybody else has that experience, either how y'all are moving through that, but just wanted to bring that up as something that I see as a barrier.
Well, if that is a common problem across SACE, if all of you or majority of you sense the same barrier, then I would certainly, I'll raise that at state board and within the department. But I would also encourage you, if it reaches that level, I would encourage you to make that one of your recommendations in your report to the state board. Because students have to know about the opportunities.
I would like to add that I am noticing some of that kind of missing information, so I make sure that I get it directly from the CTE coordinators and share it to our students. But what I am noticing is that sometimes counselors, you get like a mixed opinion when it comes to taking CPP courses over AP courses. And I know Dr. Leslie's had these conversations throughout the state with our NCNAO students and other groups of folks. And so just this week, I had a conversation with a high school student of weighing the pros and cons of taking CPP courses and getting that credit versus taking the AP course and, maybe or maybe not getting that college credit. So I think that's a challenge that our students are facing to have to choose. And a lot of them feel like they're being forced to choose AP to increase their GPA. And that's sad, because I would rather see students coming out of high school with more college credits on their belt versus a higher GPA that's really not going to matter once they start college. So.
Right. Very good point. Also, Dr. Leslie, you're showing the State Board of Education it's updates, but I was going to say, if you go further in my presentation, the CTE presentation, you can find that in the State Board report itself. You can find the data for Wake County, but I'll make it simple by sending it to you in an email, okay?
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Stacey, for everything you do to support American Indian students in North Carolina. State Board is very proud of your work.
Thank you, Dr. Olivia. I appreciate your updates. And I'm glad to be able to take this back, at least to help our kids. So thank you for your time today. I hope you have a great
Absolutely.
weekend.
Thank you.
Dr. Leslie, do we have Raven on? All right. Next up, we've got Raven Dial Stanley presenting some information about the work that she is doing with ACES. So Raven, if you are there, you've got the mic. Thank you for being here.
Hello, thank you so much, Stephen, and thank you, Dr. Leslie, for inviting me to this meeting. I cannot be there with you all in person, but I'm very honored to share with you about a couple exciting opportunities within ACES. At least I can do it virtually. So I'm sure you all are pretty familiar with, or at least the majority of ACES and sort of about what we do. But for those that aren't, I'll kind of just go over some like high-level topics of what ACES does. And then I also have a few exciting programs that some of you all may be familiar with that I would love to introduce. So of course, as we know, ACES stands for Advancing Indigenous Science and Engineering Society. And our number one goal and mission has always been to increase STEM and STEAM awareness within not only our Indigenous students in the school system, but also in STEM careers and creating those Indigenous excellent students in those STEM groups and organizations. And so we realize at ACES that a lot of that, if we want those Indigenous scientists and Indigenous scholars and engineers, we must start at the school level, and we must start even as low as in elementary school. So a little statistic on ACES, we do have over 500 tribes represented, along with about 7,300 members within ACES. So we span far across Turtle Island in the States and even expanding into Canada. So you can go ahead and go to the next slide. So this program here, some of y'all may be familiar with, this may be new to others. So this is our firing program. And when I joined ACES as a pre-K through 12 programs officer, this was kind of like one of my babies that I was able to help as the start of it launching. And so FIRE represents Fostering Indigenous Innovation in Robotics Education. And I will say in our year 2, we have done such an abundant job at trying to get this across Turtle Island and trying to bring in more FIRE schools, as you might say, that we currently do have a wait list of our FIRE programs. However, the reason why I still wanted to talk about this program is I wanted to extend the idea that if anybody would be interested that has not worked with this program, please feel free to email me or message me. I'll be sure to let Dr. Leslie or anybody else have my contact information, and I'll put it in the chat so you're welcome to use. Because the way we work at ACES is building these relationships is super helpful and incredible. So even though there might be a wait list, if you message me and you want me to come out to your Indian education program and help do some product development for this, I'm not necessarily going to say I can't make that happen. I've been very adamant, and my boss knows, about trying to get this throughout North Carolina. And I'm so excited to say that this program has already touched 6 different Indian education groups in North Carolina. So I was very excited and busy last year getting to bring this about. And pretty much what this is it is a program that teaches students about the importance of robotics and specifically like block coding and coding education, while also using environmental science and understanding climate change and what that means. And what I really love about this program is that we've specifically designed it to indigenize each lesson. So we actually work very closely with the company Forward that builds the robot kits, and we meet with them regularly to figure out ways where we can start to even integrate our indigenized lessons onto their platform so it can really reach the masses. And so everything that we do, like here you can see some of our students. Got a shout out to Mr. Stephen Bell for allowing me to bring this into their culture camp. We had so much fun last summer. And so these were some of our students where one of the things we built was the students to them my right built a hydroponics kit, and then our other ladies in the other photo, we were working on how to code a wampum belt and different things like that. So I love and appreciate how each lesson is super hyper localized to the community or the tribes that we visit, and trying to, figure out what are those climate issues that those communities face and how we can sort of create a lesson around it. So at the end of the day, students are ultimately learning the goal of, coding for good. So like I said, if I haven't come out to your community and done a professional development, and this may be something that you would be interested in, we do supply all of the products, and we do try to go based off the number of students you have in your specific community or urban organization. So please feel free to reach out to me, and we can sort of start a dialogue on how I can bring this back out to you all. And we'll go on to the next one. So this is another exciting event that we have with NASIF or with ACES, and it is our National American Indian Science and Engineering Fair. And I believe I am aware that some of you all have been able to take your students in the past. I know Robeson County typically does, and I'm sure a couple other counties, which I think is really awesome. So we're looking forward to expanding that out. I've actually already started working with some of you all to send an invitation to NASIF. So like I said, this is our National Science Fair. It will be happening April 10th and 11th, and I apologize for not putting that date in, but it's open to 5th graders all the way up to high school seniors that are interested in pursuing STEM or STEAM, and all that encompasses. And so this is just an exciting opportunity for our young people. And one thing I love to stress about this event is it's more than just a science fair. So even if you are able to bring students to this event but may not have a science project ready or want to compete, that's totally fine. We also offer college fairs and career fairs as well. So I like to encourage folks that this is just a great networking opportunity and a great opportunity for students to meet other Native students from other areas in Turtle Island. So really excited about this. This will be held at the Oklahoma State Fairgrounds during this time. So very happy to be able to bring this back despite a lot of the many funding cuts that we've both also experienced as well, like I'm sure many of you have also. So we've definitely been trying to juggle that and manage how we can best use our funding to continue making these organizations and programs thrive and keep them sustainable. So I am excited about that. I also wanted to mention with this, while we do have the in-person event, we also offer a virtual event as well. So even if you may be interested in NASIF, and if anybody knows me, I'm the type of person that if I don't have the answer, I will find somebody that can get it. So if you are interested in NASIF, I will do everything in my power to help see how we can fund you to be there and make sure that you can come. And at the very least, open the virtual opportunity up for you all and your students. So this is just another great opportunity and program that if you think you have any excellent students that could really benefit from it, please don't hesitate to reach out, and I would love to figure out how I can connect you all with this event. And then the last one is something I'm super excited about. So this is a new program that we are launching this year that I've been able to work with my boss, who is the director over this program, and it is called ACES Clubs. And so with this program, the way we're trying to launch it is it's going to look like an after school sort of setup, which I think this program is very fitting for a lot of our Indian education programs, because we offer different curriculum and lesson plans, but they're generally designed for like a 20-minute, 30-minute session. So this could be something that you all could integrate when you're doing your lunch meetings, when you go out and visit students, when you're doing after school programs, when you're doing culture classes. And what it is each week we have certain lesson plans. So like, for example, our first week, this is about corn. And in this lesson, they learned a little bit of history about the indigenous perspective of corn. So we reference the Iroquois white corn. and that nation and those tribes up north. And then we also pair it with a STEM and a art activity as well. So you can kind of decide when you're working with your students, and depending on what grade level they're at, they could do either or of the activities. They could do the more artistic STEAM one or the more science and STEM focused one. So I think it's really great for having, that physical indigenized STEM curriculum for you all. A lot of the materials that it requires is nothing more that you would already have in your classroom anyways. And I think just a great interactive activity and opportunity if you're looking to integrate more STEM in your meetings with students and in your cultural classes. So definitely with this one, if you have any programs or any communities that could truly benefit from this and would love to learn more, please don't hesitate, like I said, to email me. So I will be sure to drop my contact information in the chat. And of course, any way that I can help be a bridge and provide resources for you all with ACES, I would be certainly glad to. So thank you all again for letting me speak and talk a little bit about the amazing things that ACES offers.
Thank you so much, Raven. I know there are a few questions for you if you've got a few minutes. I would also love to hear for folks who have already connected to Raven if you want to share how y'all have been using FIRE or how that training helped you. But Jeremiah, go ahead.
Hey, Raven, it's Jeremiah.
Hi.
Hey, so I've just messaged you. I'd like to bring FIRE to Scotland County Schools. But outside of that, the NASAF engineering fair or the Native Science Fair, what was the date again for that?
It is April 10th through the 11th.
Thank you so much. And I'll follow up with you about FIRE.
Sure thing. I've got that on my record, so we can go ahead and start having a conversation. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
This is Tamara Raven with Columbus. We are still enjoying our FIRE program, our little microbits. And the kids are very, very excited to be able to do their own coding and everything. So it's worked really well in Columbus County. So thank you again.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
Now, Raven, I know you have prioritized Title VI Indian Ed programs. Are you able to come to like specific schools? We've got a couple educators and administrators, both here in person and virtually. Would you be able to come to their school if they have a predominant or a high number of Native students?
Yes, that was actually the original. When my boss was designing this program, it was catered more towards Indigenous predominant schools. And the way I was able to sort of trickle our Title VI Indian Ed programs in there is I pretty much went to my boss and I was like, look, in North Carolina, a lot of our Native students are in Indian Ed, and like if you want to reach them, this is where you go. So that was actually the initial goal, was predominantly Indigenous schools, and then I was kind of able to add that in there. So yes, absolutely. If there are some schools, please by all means feel free to reach out to me so that I can connect and see how I can help in any way. And even with our other programs that we have, we could certainly bring those to that as well.
Great, thank you.
I just want to say thank you also, Raven. This is Candace from Cumberland. And I am having conversations with CTE, it just kind of bridges the gap where they have coding classes and they're excited to check out FIRE to see how they can include FIRE into their coding classes to bring that Indigenous perspective. So I think that's going to be an exciting opportunity for our students to see that.
Oh, that's wonderful. And please let me know, keep me updated how that goes. And if there's any information or anything you need from me, that's awesome. One thing I forgot to mention that brings a great segue to is with FIRE and even the Forward team that does the robotics kits, all of our lessons we do try to align with curriculum standards. So that's another thing that teachers love to get excited about, is we do try to be very intentional while we're indigenizing it. We're also acknowledging that we want to align to those standards.
Yeah, that's great. I know, just to add on to your presentation, Raven, something that I really appreciated, being from an urban context, you were able to take that understanding and were able to, provide some lessons that were more geared toward students, native students who are in an urban context, but then also were able to show how you were catering to folks from more rural areas or from reservations. So I really appreciated that, just to help our kids see the diversity in themselves. I think was great. And I think we had as young as kindergarten who were playing with coding with the wampum belts and things like that. So for those who are thinking like my kids are too young, we had a 5-year-old who was there and she was loving every minute of it. So her grandma could not pick her up at the end of the day because she was enjoying it too much. So anybody else that want to add anything or any questions? Well, Raven, thank you so much for being here do you have a question? Yeah, go ahead.
Sure.
Yes, can you, I'm sorry, this is Kristen from Scotland County Schools. Can you please share your contact information on the slide?
Yes, I sure will. And I've also dropped it in the chat, but I'll go ahead and I'll add it to the slide as well. So that way you all have it. And like I said, Stephen Bell has my contact and Dr. Leslie. So you all are welcome to share that out with anybody that may be interested.
Thank you.
Could we add her contact in the comments or something? Okay, great. Thank you. Well, Raven, thank you again for being here. On a personal note, our condolences to you and your family as you're navigating the transition of your grandma. So just know that our thoughts and prayers are with you all. But thank you for being here today.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And thank you all for having me. And thank you, Dr. Leslie, for inviting me to speak at this meeting. I truly appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a good weekend. All right, next up, Dr. Leslie, you've got the mic, working on summit planning for SACE.
Yes, so as you all know, we do host the biannual American Indian Education Summit Planning, and typically this planning would start in the fall. That makes me very anxious. So I would like to start this planning a year in advance. I do think one of the negative factors that impacted us the previous summit was twofold. We did have weather conditions that impacted our date change, but we also were what I would consider delayed in getting out information about the American Indian Education Summit. So I would love for us today, I do have a few things that I want to discuss, and once we have something concrete, we can turn this over to the committee to begin working on. But the first thing that I would like to think about and have discussions about are dates. Typically, this has occurred the last week of January, and there was discussion about the reasoning for this is that we run into different conferences. Of course, we run into the United Tribes Conference in March, so that was the reasoning behind the January date. So I would love to open the floor to consider dates for the 2027 American Indian Education Summit. We can start with a week.
I would say avoid January. I know it's typically in the second half of the year, but maybe move it past January. So February and on.
Are there any thoughts on days of the week maybe that would work? I know at one point we were having them on Fridays, but then I think last year it was on a Tuesday due to scheduling. So
I'm going back to find the exact day of when it was. It was on February 18th, 2025, which was a Tuesday. But previously, it was scheduled for the end of January, and then we booked 6 weeks out. So last year, it was a Tuesday in February. But remember, our original date was in January.
Tuesday.
Yeah, I think it was a Friday in January. So I've heard not January, do we have a preference for another month?
I'll say just from the school admin perspective, in terms of month, that doesn't have a lot of heaviness or weight to it in terms of scheduling, but Fridays are perfect. A midweek commitment is really difficult in terms of like our instructional work, managing the building, or making sure we get that approved in time. That Friday is usually a lot easier in terms of us getting approved to make sure that we can be there.
I would add that March is also a difficult month. And then leading into spring break becomes a hectic time. So February might be a better time. Right. February might be a better month for us.
So like a February, I see 5th, 12th, 19th, 26th. Those are all Fridays.
Not that people have their lives planned out that far, but if you look, are any of those an absolute no-go?
I would imagine the 26th is the weekend before the United Tribes Conference. I know that hasn't been announced, so I'm wondering if that might be helpful to stay away from the 26th so that if people are trying to either have to take time off or traveling.
Would late January be an option? Because I know we come directly off of our holiday break, then we come back. That gives us a few weeks. Late January.
Well, the past couple of years we've had snow.
So weather. Well,
Yeah,
okay.
that's why I said no January, because
Gotcha.
the past 2 years we've been iced out.
10-4. Gotcha.
Yeah, weather was the concern, my concern, and logistically, the word nightmare doesn't encompass. Yeah. So the 5th, 12th, 19th sounds like they are possibly preferred in terms of dates.
Yeah, those all look good. And I think the idea of the last weekend kind of being out because of preparing for Unity.
Does that give you enough room to have 3 options? Okay.
And now I would like to move into a quick discussion on location. So the past summit was at Campbell University. We had a great partnership with Campbell because we do have a key person there. Dr. Alfred Bryant was critical in helping with that, lowered a lot of the cost because we did not pay for any facilities. But that does not limit us if you are interested in somewhere else. I will say, just for me personally, I have more key relationships when we have things at university or community colleges because we usually can identify a partner there to get the facilities costs down. If we go outside of that, if we are looking at an event space, we have to consider the facilities and then also bringing in catering. Universities typically have on-site catering and food, which logistically makes things easier, but it's not impossible if we have an outside venue. Any ideas or suggestions on locations?
Do we try to move it around year to year, or is it fine to be stable? I don't know if you try to move it around based on accessibility of location for people across the state, or do you keep it?
So what I've learned in just looking at historically, it's been twofold. It's been what is cheap and accessible, and where do we have those partnerships at? I don't think there's been logic necessarily applied to we want to move around. It's been more of what is accessible and what can we reasonably afford.
Hey, so just throwing this out there, is it possible for a PSU or maybe a high school to host the event? And then at that point, we would just have to have conversations around, of course, the catering component. But would that be a possibility?
I think in terms of if we think facilities wise, if it's possible, if we have a large meeting space and then breakout space, and then of course we eat. So if we cover, we just have to have those 3 things.
Okay. So I would actually be willing to see if a high school could host and then bring that back to the group. And then I don't know what catering would look like, but I know, for example, in Scotland County, Scotland High School has a huge opening space. And that's where we hold our convocation every year. And then we have several breakout rooms that we could use for the sessions. I just don't know what catering would look like yet if the group was in agreement with looking into that.
The same with Cumberland. We have the Educational Resource Center, which the main area holds about 200-ish. I'll get the for sure number. It depends on your numbers, but then we have several breakout rooms also.
And to give you an idea of numbers, we planned in 2025 for 150. We only had about 78 show up. But remember, we changed the date, which conflicted with a lot of people's schedules. So that's why I would love to get this on the books early. If we at least get a date, we can save the date. Any other discussions? Any other locations you want to throw out? Options?
And another reason why I mentioned that is because if facilities use cost was an issue, a lot of PSUs would be willing to partner, and it would be free of cost. It would just be, you have to fill out, of course, and document that you're going to use the facility at that time, which would mean your main emphasis at that point would be the feeding costs or the catering cost. So if we think about the partnership in that way, that would be free.
I think we need to keep the traveling time for most of us under 2 hours.
Hi, this is Stacy Lynch. I would like to suggest maybe checking into Nash Community College, and I do understand keeping the traveling under 2 hours of less, but it would be great to move it around just a little bit because the last 2 summits have been either near Pinehurst or it was at Campbell University last year.
Miss Stacy, do you?
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to ask Miss Stacy. And I want to say I've been to Nash Community College, and I know a little bit about their facilities. Do you know if they have any type of food or catering services on site?
As far as I know, they do, and I could most definitely look into that and try to locate a contact person that would be willing to work with us and bring more information back to the committee, and we can go from there. Like I said, I'm open anywhere, but I just think that would, be something most definitely different than in the past years.
Any other feedback on locations? So I will move into any suggestions. Our guest speaker is typically relegated, honestly, to budget. So if we lower facilities costs, have more money for guest speaker. So it's almost like I have to do this in steps, but suggestions for guest speakers that would speak typically during that opening session.
I'll just throw out Ryan Emanuel. Dr. Emanuel's very good. He's very well spoken. He's got a lot of information about a lot of different parts of the state, and he's well known.
And he's still at Duke, right?
Yes, he is.
We have, what is it, 2 or 3 speakers usually?
We can do whatever you like.
Okay.
If you want, and we don't have to have anything finalized today, we changed the schedule up quite a bit in 2025, so it looked a little different. We had an opening opening session, breakouts, and we did not necessarily do a closing person speaking. It was more just like a general, thank you for coming, good day. But we could always change that around. We did have someone speak during lunch, which is when, forgive me, I forgot. Jordan came and spoke during our lunchtime. So there's different options of when we can plug people in.
I have another suggestion. Dr. Kenneth Bowen. Also well-spoken, does very well known, but he has a different perspective on different parts of the state. So
Suggestion for Dr. Melinda Maynor.
So we are very Lumbee heavy.
Another suggestion. So if we do have a second presenter, like we had the last time, I can't think of the child's name. Preacher Mike and Quay's granddaughter that participated in ACES and got a huge award.
Cummings, Ava.
So we have a student presenter, someone who can talk to us from a student perspective, and then somebody who can talk to us from a professional perspective. So we see our purpose.
I do love the idea of having students come and speak. So I would like to plant that seed with you. If there are I don't want to use the word exemplar students, but students that their leadership is represented in speaking in front of 100 people. Leadership shows up differently. But if they are comfortable with that, I also would plant the seed of any youth-led workshops as well, is an option. Some of our youth are willing to do that. And I also will share that Lydia Harden Mansfield currently serves as a student rep on the NIEA board. And I don't know that we've had a North Carolina student rep in a long time. She may also be an option.
I was going to mention Lydia. I'm also wondering about Zion Richardson as well, given that she's a new teacher and also not Lumbee too. So.
I would also like to suggest Dr. Susan Silver as well as Justin Richardson. I do feel like Zion Richardson, all the other people suggested would be great as well.
So, and then any other suggestions on people? We're not closing the conversation, just trying to get us started. And then key topics and concerns. And I know that our landscape changes, I almost said every year, every week, every day. But if you thought about, this is what I really feel like people need to know. Are there any high-level topics? We know that tribal consultation will be one of those. But are there any burning topics that you're like, we absolutely have to cover this?
Yes. So I know oftentimes like we present data and we put it out there in the community, but I think it'd be really powerful if we actually had like a working session to explain the why behind the data, how you actually analyze data. For example, this is like an American Indian Education Summit, and then we throw out numbers and percentages, but it would be powerful to talk about what is a CSI targeted school? What is a TSI targeted school? How do subgroups, like how does that performance actually weigh into how a school is weighted? Because oftentimes when we talk about achievement, we don't always like expand upon where we're at 30% achievement here, we're at 67%, but like what actually entails or is connected to that work. Zion and I actually in Dr. Bryant's cohort are working on like a literacy pamphlet to actually talk about how to support American Indian literacy and what is MClass, how to use that risk assessment and indicator to actually inform what you're doing in your homes. How can you connect that learning to your community to ensure that we are looking at a holistic version of success? Because it is important that we're throwing around numbers, but it's also important to have a working session so that we understand what we can do to maximize the achievement of our students, not just saying that that's a gap. So I guess in a sense, I'm saying, can we provide some sort of working development so they understand the data a little bit more in depth versus just presenting it.
Thank you for those 2 workshops that you will be helping develop.
And also to piggyback on Jeremiah, I think our American Indian community needs to understand the difference between state reported American Indian numbers and the numbers that represent American Indian students in a program, because not every student in a program is reported in the state number, and not every number reported in the state number is in the program.
Any other topics? I also think it's beneficial that sometimes when we have workshops, we have a targeted audience. So if it is for administrators, if it is for IEA coordinators and directors. So in terms of IEA, is there anything, I know we do tribal consultation, but is there anything in terms of IEA that would be beneficial? Or if I'm an administrator, I need to hear this. If I'm at the district level PSU, we can have targeted audience sessions that were beneficial in 2025 when we listed this is who this is for.
Hey again. I'm not an IEA coordinator, but I think I actually watched Candace and Stephen. They did a presentation, I think, at a former Unity conference, and they talked about how to build a meaningful, impactful community partnership. So, or even like a school-based partnership and how that started. Oftentimes in the world of an administrator, we're overwhelmed with lots of things and our minds are going in different, viewpoints and different directions of the work. Oftentimes, I think there's a lack of connection because our stakeholders simply don't know or understand how to use that resource. So how to start that relationship to make sure it's meaningful and then expand upon it. Like, how do you use that person in your district to leverage academic success in your building and what that partnership actually looks like? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think I was kind of going in the same direction, but like as a staff of 8, I'm sending my staff out into these schools. And so something to prepare not just the coordinators, but those YDS and the other tutors, whatever they're called, different things across the state, but preparing them heavy because we don't have a lot of professional development for Indian education specific.
But I think it's important too that administrators don't see this work as something in addition to the caseload, but this is going to benefit the current work. And if we could frame that why and that vision strategically through a session, I think that's powerful. Because oftentimes, I'll just be completely transparent. I hear conversations in rooms and they're like, oh, this is something else that we have to comply to, or this is something else on our checklist. But if we can reframe that and say, no, this is actually going to benefit and complement the work, then we have buy-in at that point.
Yeah, I think me and Leslie have been saying a lot, and Stephen, my numbers are your numbers. My students are your students. And maybe if we coin that in some kind of way, because once I realized or once I got a principal on board to say, my numbers matter because they are your numbers. And when you let me into your school, when you let us do the work that we do, you will find it as important as we do, because we're here not to take away from the other students, but to improve these students that are falling below.
Just make shirts with it.
For educators or counselors or social workers or people working directly with students, seeing resilience as an asset. So understanding this, that American Indian students may come to the table with different traumas and different stories, and how their stories and their resilience is an asset to their educational journey.
Another thing that I would like to add that I often hear every day is we don't have the money for that. I don't want to say a grant writing workshop, but a presentation of financial opportunities outside of Indian Ed, because some groups, are really great at this, but it does take a special skill set and extra work to find it, to write for it, to implement a grant. But I do know that that is often what I hear when things are shared is, well, we don't have the money for that. So training, whether it be the IEA staff or whoever it may be, on what that looks like, to eradicate that excuse, but provide help to find that funding. Yeah.
Saying that that it becomes burdensome to the school district. One of the things that you need to think about is sustainability and breaking the funds, and that this is a federal, it is funded through federal funds, and you have an opportunity to break those funds across the board. And one of the concepts in federal programs is, piggyback, and it's kind of like an incidental benefit, because you do have a low population and most of your expenses are probably going to be below 5%. So since that is the standard, if it's below 5%, then you can benefit your students. I mean, your students can join other students or other programs, and we can try to integrate what you're doing along with them so it can support work that you're doing. So, there's lots of opportunities for you guys to do bigger things. It's just thinking about it and writing it, Jeremiah, in a way in your school improvement plan that it doesn't become another check mark or checklist, but just put it in there, because most of you are sitting here with a subgroup in your school that you have to acknowledge, and you want to make sure that you're doing the right thing for them. So, your students, like school said, your students are my students, and we both have the same outcome.
And for those online, I know you couldn't hear Ms. Hawana, but I want to reiterate what she said. She talked about, in terms of federal funds, braiding those funds and embedding them as a part of what others may be doing. So utilizing it in a strategic way and writing it in a way that kind of, like you said, braids it together, because we are typically touching a lot of the same populations. So just being strategic with those funds that are coming to the school, but they come under a lot of different names from different areas, and really thinking high level what that looks like. Any other key topics or concerns?
Can I piggyback on the funds idea? I've had conversations in the past literally 2 weeks with different organizations that have money set aside for whether it be Native students or Native people specifically, or just education, and they want to be impactful in a meaningful way, which would be working with Indian Ed, obviously. But like Merck, that's a company here in Raleigh. They have a Native American group. Cisco has a Native American group. Healthy Blue has funds that they are looking to partner. So there's so many private sector or public sector or just other nonprofits that have funds that they are looking, just waiting for to be put to work. So I don't know if there's a way we could do some research to see how many companies in the Research Triangle have Native American groups that have funds that they're looking to do something with. But that was just an idea, because I was like, wow, this is 3 companies or 3 organizations that are looking to put their funds to work.
And Candace, what I often find is that people will send me stuff and I send it out, which is wonderful. But once it leaves my inbox and it goes out, my follow-up is very limited, just because it's hard to circle back. But then what I've also realized is that there's no running resource list. So somebody might send me something one time, I send it out, and then somebody sends something else and I send it out. But it's hard for me to keep a running list of, this is an option next year if I can't make the deadline. This is the deadline. This is the link to apply. So it's, if we had a running resource list of those opportunities.
To that list, I'll add Pfizer and Cisco. They both have very vibrant Native American networks. We used to have one at Red Hat.
So I I will open the floor. I know we had a conversation at the end of in 2025 regarding the conference and the summit, and we talked a little bit about the pros and cons. But are there any thoughts that we want to bring up now before we turn it over? The subcommittee will kind of take the lead and begin working. And I'm happy to pull those notes from that SACE meeting. But if there's anything you recall all the way back from the summit, I would love to open the floor to that.
I have one, and this is probably very basic in terms of information or information as opposed to what you guys normally provide. But I'm looking at some of the notes and some of the, I guess, acronyms. Could we have an information session that kind of goes through what all that stuff is and what it means? Because you got all these different acronyms, right? We got SACE, that's one. ACE is another one. STEM is another one. CTE is another one. AP is another one. FIRE is another one. NACEF another one. And some of those are ACEs heavy, but there's a ton just within the school systems as well. And it would be nice if and I'm trying to do this. I have to do this at my work. I'm constantly telling people not to use acronyms because not everybody knows what those acronyms mean. Not everybody. That's like it's jargon, right? Jargon is what we all speak in. But if the audience is not aware of what those terms mean, it can be overwhelming, and then they don't want to ask the question, right? Because they're like, well, everybody else knows, but I don't. So then I look like a dummy if I ask a question. I don't want people to feel like dummies. I want people to feel like empowered.
I think that would be beneficial, definitely targeted at tribal communities, tribal councils, and then also our parents in any communities. I think that would be beneficial.
I was just going to say, I think that is a fantastic idea. And that could easily be connected to the data session as well. Like if you take 10 to 15 minutes just to talk about how all of these things are applicable and how they're connected. Because even when we talk about school improvement team meetings and including that in IndyStar and all of that, oftentimes our parent reps are like, what are we talking about here? So if we can bridge that gap, that can take away some of that anxiety so we can have true buy-in. So I just think that's a great idea.
Another just sort of brainstorm idea, Leslie, that I was thinking about from Candace. I think we were in this session at NIEA, but they were presenting from Power School. So I can't remember I'm not sure how it would work for Infinite Campus, but they were presenting on how, like in Power School, you're tracking not just students from, different Indian Ed programs or different schools, but you're also tracking from different tribes. And they were able to track data on attendance and academics and behavior related to a specific tribe. And so then tribal leaders had at least a minimal layer of access to access that data. I'm wondering if there could be some sort of like collaborative brainstorming type session to start to create that, so that tribal members and tribal leaders could get access to that data to be able to track that.
Along the lines of Infinite Campus, I foresee we would still need additional training, information, support regarding reporting, how to pull down certain things. And that would be, to me, I see that as separate in terms of if you are an administrator, educator, or IEA coordinator, director, and you are looking to pull certain things. I think a working session around Infinite Campus would be beneficial. It was really great this Wednesday when we met during collaborative conversations for people just to say, you click here and you click here. It's just helpful sometimes. So we will ride the wave, and I'm going to hope that by next February, Infinite Campus won't be a problem and we'll all be experts. But tentatively, I will jot that down as a foreseeable workshop.
Oh, can you also add Infinite Campus to that? Because nobody knows what that is.
Absolutely.
I should say,
Don't worry.
I don't know what that is.
Don't worry, Calvin. I went through a
I'm
lot of
okay.
meetings where people kept saying IC, and I was like, I have no idea what IC is, and it was Infinite Campus, which is the student information system, and people kept saying SIS, and I was like, SIS, who is IC? And it's a we got you, Calvin.
On those lines, also for educators, MTSS early intervention, understanding when our students are not meeting the mark, when and how to intervene, what kind of supports we can put in place for students to help them stay on track, because Indian education is for Indian students, but it's education. And so we want to bridge the gap for them so that they can have a seat at the table whenever the time comes for them to have a seat at the table.
So go ahead, Stephen.
I was also just thinking, kind of tying both of your questions together. I'm also trying to think about how do we make this accessible to our education partners who are not native but are wanting to, collaborate. Maybe they don't have the funds to be able to like financially support, but are wanting to think about how their organizations can partner. So I'm just trying to think about what that would look like. I don't know if there's like a breakout session that has like different tracks for youth, tribal leaders, non-native organizations. I don't know, but just trying to think about how do we bring those allies in who are wanting to help us. How do we make it accessible to them?
I also want us to continue to be able to discern very particularly our intended audience, because sometimes with Native events, things get really big and it's hard to share anything because it's targeted maybe to 10 people. But the event is so all encompassing of people that we've lost the target audience. And I noticed that just with registration in 2025, and a lot of people were asking me, well, who should I send? And I did not have an answer for that, because typically at American Indian events, similar to United Tribes, we all go. So being sure that we have a target audience, I think, is really important, and that will also help direct our workshops. And it's fine if our target audience is multiple audiences. We just want to be clear to be able to share that information to those that we are disseminating registration and things to, because we are limited on space, because we do cover, we as in SACE budget covers the food. So we can only extend it so far. So knowing who our key target audience is, I think, is really important.
And I just wanted to add one more point to what Candace said earlier. I think it would be powerful if one of the key speakers framed the why. Like when you were saying these numbers matter to you because they're your students. So we're doing this work, they're our students. But if a key speaker could really frame for everybody in that like opening session or whenever why those students matter, why that data point is a part of the conversation, that would connect somewhat to what Stephen was saying as well about how do we ensure that all of these stakeholders feel like this is relevant to their work and how can they partner. I think if that were not necessarily a session, but a speaker, that would be outstanding. Now, I don't know who that would be, but if that were a possibility, I think that would be a great opening session to frame that why very early on.
And Jeremiah, just adding in why we're all here together. So why did we all come here today? Why is everybody at this table? Why are we having these conversations?
we'll pray about it. So next steps of what will happen now that we have a general idea list, I think you all know how event planning does, is that we will start first with figuring out location in terms of availability. I'm really hoping that because we're starting early, we are literally a year out, that we will have top choice. What is also my preferred option is to go ahead and set a top choice date, and I will already establish and reserve a backup date just to make me a little more comfortable, so that if something happens with our February dates, that we have a backup date already reserved. That was the issue we ran into at Campbell, is that we were back to back with multiple events. So even though they could fit us in, they couldn't do exactly what we wanted them to because we had not reserved that space ahead of time. So if we are already reserved for 2 dates as just a hold, I think that will make us a little bit more comfortable. So we will turn this conversation over to the committee moving forward. If you are on that American Indian Summit committee, we will turn that conversation over there to get some of the logistics done and then come back for reporting in April. If you have any ideas between now and then, please feel free to email or share that information out. Chair, I'm going to check on lunch.
Sounds great. Thank you, Dr. Leslie. All right, lunch is not quite ready, but we are going to take some time while it gets set up to discuss the youth mental health training dates. This was presented to us by Alicia. October, November, one of the fall meeting dates where she presented, and we voted on having this as an opportunity for folks. So, Dr. Leslie, can you give us an update on where you're at with that and where we can go from there?
So we did vote at the end of the Q2 meeting to move forward with the youth mental health training. If you recall, and I did a short synopsis in the minutes, but if you recall, this is training that we preferred be done in person, and the estimated cost upward was at max $3,500, but there is an opportunity for us to negotiate a little bit of that depending on the host. And it is for up to 30 people. So this youth mental health training, I want to be clear, is not a train the trainer model. So it will not be where you come to the training and then you go out and train others. And our targeted audience would need to be those that provide direct services to our students. So those that directly work with them, directly impact them. I've been in conversation with Alicia, and the information that we need to discuss today are possible dates for that. So I would love to hear from you that are in a district thinking about possible dates. It doesn't have to be immediate, but we just need to get something on the calendar, preferably before July 1. And then also, I would love, Candace, if you would not mind sharing briefly, your team has gone through the virtual training, because we also want to narrow down attendance and how we are going to get to our 30 and who that should target.
So we did a virtual training. I have my staff and plus one of the YDC youth development coordinators wanted to join, and she works with multiple students across the district. And it was a good experience. That was virtual. It was very interactive. We were all on our own computers because you can make notes and you can follow along. But then we had a main screen where we could look together. And there's a book that they send you, so it keeps you very engaged. It was all day, 8 to 3. And then they gave us a short time for lunch, which was fine. We were able to make that work. So I think with 30 people,
It was very interactive. The team really uses real life events that you might experience when working with youth. Because I have a social work background, a lot of it was things that I just innately know or would do, but a lot of folks who do not have like a social work or a counseling background, this would really benefit them.
So if we want to start first, I think our intended attendance will impact who we extend the invitation to, because so how would we envision attendance or invitations working?
This is Angelique. I think perhaps maybe offering it to our Indian education coordinators first. And since they do work directly with students, and if those coordinators have a staff, maybe offering it to those persons who directly work with students as well. So I guess start there and see how many people we can find who are interested, and then maybe fanning out from that point.
I think the question that I was going to pose was, do you want to do a percentage of the percentage of the population that you serve? Because some programs will have a much larger group of people than others, so it wouldn't necessarily be fair to say everyone's going to bring 3 people or everyone's going to bring 4 people. But we could start at a base number and then base the overall number that that program gets to bring determined by the number of students that they serve or the size of their program.
So we could do a base invitation to all IEA coordinators. Now that could potentially put you at 20. Potentially.
If you just got the coordinator.
If you just got, if
Not
I
even-
got
not
every
even talking about staff.
not staff.
Minus me.
Minus 19. Yeah. And then that would leave 9 spots. Mm-hmm.
Okay, Dr. Leslie, also minus myself, I was on that virtual meeting for training back in December that Candace was on as well.
Gotcha.
And we could also maybe extend it to some of the boys and girls clubs if they have not already received it as well.
So what I can do is I will do some mathematics and I will break that down. And what I typically do when we have an invite list similar to the summit is we have a tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 invite list. So once my tier 1 deadline is met, we'll expand it to tier 2 and then on to tier 3. And I will, if we are all okay, I will follow the lead of Kristen in terms of percentages. So whatever's left after tier 1, it will break down to percentages. Are we all okay with that? And I will keep you all updated as that process moves on. But I would love to hear from, if you are in an IEA role or in a school district, feedback on dates. Of course, I will cross-check these with Alicia, but I would need some direction in terms of dates. It's really hard for me to look at all of the spring break things and the testing. So any direction you could provide me of when to stay away or what you would suggest.
Probably staying away from the month of May with testing and all that stuff.
April is spring break typically everybody's falls in the second or third week. Okay.
Ours correlates with Easter, so ours is the first week of April. That first like half week.
Okay.
What's the timeline for getting this done?
So we would just need to really expend the funds by the end of the fiscal year, which would be June. But my concern is that some of our IEA staff are 10-month employees. So they will track out June.
I know our last date is the Friday, the first Friday in June. So
Okay.
I don't know if teacher work days would be an option, but I know they're different for everybody across the state.
And then there are districts who, didn't really follow the calendar and, decided to start school earlier and get out in May. So their teacher work days are finished, by the first week in June. So, which for other schools, that may still be a testing window.
Like would end of April. Like what's like the earliest would you imagine?
I think April is the earliest logistically I could get us in. But I think that if we look at the last week in April, which is April 27th through May 1st, does that sound absolutely terrible for anybody? Okay. So I will work with Alicia. I heard back from her this week. I will work with her to get a more concrete plan, but I will go ahead and work on the logistics regarding our attendance. My other concern is making sure we can navigate this through procurement for payment and all of that. So I will also be working on that as well.
Dr. Leslie, something to be mindful of. Someone might need to help me here. When part 2 of our application will be due, is it May 8th? That sounds familiar to me. Let me see if I can. That's when our Indian Ed grant part 2 would be due. So definitely avoiding that,
Okay.
which is May, which already, but May 8th. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Well, we are going to pause the conversation and we will pick back up after lunch. We'll come back. It's 12:03 on my watch, so we'll come back at 1:03. All right. Everybody have a good lunch. We'll see you in about an hour. Back up with our conversation. Let's see. All right. We are going to take a look at some of the SACE report recommendations to start off. Those of you on the SACE report subcommittee, feel free to jump in and add anything that I forget, but we've got the theme, as you can see on the screen or on the slides. We've got our 2026 theme is Beyond the Numbers, telling the story of the whole child in Indian education. Dr. Leslie's done a great job of getting 15 student profiles. I know I've tried to send one more her way. I know we were trying to work on getting a few more just to make sure all of our tribes in North Carolina are represented. Was there anything else with profiles that you needed?
So there was a
assistance with?
recommendation, when we actually had a conversation last year, there was interest in adding in student profiles to the SACE report to give a little bit more of a qualitative overview of our student population. So we did receive 16 student profiles. We did get a representative from every state tribe except Saponi and Eastern Band of Cherokee Indian. Stephen is working to get me the Eastern Band of Cherokee Indian, and Will, I'm going to work with you and Miss Dorothy to hopefully get a Saponi represented, because I would love to have representation. We did also get 3 other outside of North Carolina tribes, but they are public school students. So I am excited to add in those student profiles to our 2026 SACE report. Different and will have a different feel. So we're doing a lot of reformatting. So I'm working with them now to figure out how things will be placed and what it will look like.
Great. All right. So what we do need to do is we need to vote on our recommendations. So through conversations with Leslie and I and Dr. Olivia, but then also with our subcommittee, we've kind of narrowed down some of our thoughts into these 2 recommendations, with some target audience alignment that you see below each one, as well as an alignment to one of the 8 pillars from Mo Green's strategic direction. So if you want to take a look there, and then once we're ready, I do need a motion to approve it, or move forward with some discussion. So if you got any questions at this time or any discussions, we can go ahead and open up the floor.
Hey, I have a question regarding number 2 that says support the enhancement of. Will there be something added to talk about what that support looks like? Or does it need to be like generic, just saying like we're going to support this, but will there be a blurb or something that talks about how it's going to be supported?
So what I've also developed, Jeremiah, is Dr. Oxendine also advised us to add in action steps. So even though those action steps will not appear in the SACE report, there are specific action set or objectives that follow each one of these that will guide this work. I'm also happy to share those, but I didn't want to I can email those out.
Perfect. Thank you.
target audience definitely helps.
I know these, I see that you had the pillars identified there. Do we have those pillars too? Do you have that list of what the Mo Green's pillars are?
I can look those up for you.
I was gonna see.
Do you have that? So we've got pillar 6, which is lead transformative change, which is for the first one, and then pillar 5, optimize operational excellence. I don't know if this is relevant, Dr. Leslie, but I'm wondering now also for number 1, given that pillar 3 talks about enhancing parent, caregiver, and community support, I'm wondering about how that might align with tribal consultation as well here. So just a thought, if y'all are open to adding that.
I think what we can also do, Stephen, is in the continued objectives that we have in the subcommittee, is we can align them. We can describe how they align to each one. So there are some objectives that will align with pillar 1 and some with pillar 6. And when we provide updates to the state board, I know there was a recommendation that we come before the state board in the fall, that we can provide updates based on that alignment.
Okay, that sounds great. Any other thoughts? Are we ready to move forward with the vote? Okay. So if I can get a motion to approve our recommendations for the 2026 SACE report.
Kristen Oxendine, I motion to approve the recommendations.
Angelique Young, I second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, so moved. These are our 2026 SACE report recommendations. All right, so we've got our report recommendations we've talked about. Was there anything else with the youth mental health first aid that you needed, Dr. Leslie? Okay, so we're finished with that. 2026 membership application.
So I know Mr. Greg Richardson mentioned this. As of, I want to say Stephen and I checked maybe 2 weeks ago, there was only one application for SACE that is currently housed with North Carolina Commission of Indian Affairs, and we are losing 4 people: Candace, Angelique, Jeremiah, and Miss Stacy. So we will be losing 4. If you are able to renew and you're interested, then we want to encourage you to do that process. But if you know of anyone, we want to go ahead and get those out. The deadline is February 15th. So if you need that, I will resend it back out. But I've tried to disseminate it, but we only had 1 application. So please continue to share that.
Did you get the one I sent yesterday?
This is Dorothy Yates.
Go ahead, Ms. Dorothy.
For our 5 whose terms are ending, Candace is the only one who is ending her first term. So she is eligible to serve another term. And I've already spoken with her, and I think her application is already in. Now, the other 4, this is the end of your second term. So you can only serve 2 terms without taking, being off for at least a year and then submitting to come back on. So the Candace being the only one that is eligible to serve another term. She already has her application in. So I encourage our other 4 to go back to your communities and make sure they know that as you being their representative, that your term will end. So they need to submit someone else to continue serving on SACE. And that's really works the best way if the person whose term is ending will go back to your community, to your tribe, and say, you know, that your term is ending, and put that personal touch to it. Because just sending out the emails, we have never had good response just from that. So we have to put that personal touch to that. So I would encourage you to do that. And I had sent emails to each of you whose term is ending. So if we could re-emphasize that very quickly to get the applications in. For our educator applications, that part 5 has to be filled out by your the educator supervisor at the central services. So we really, you know, need to inform anybody that's interested as an educator, so they will have time to get that signature on that form. Also, on the front cover sheet where you put your tribe or organization, then the administrator of the tribe or the organization has to do a letter of recommendation to go with the application. So whoever that tribal administrator or chairman or the administrator for the local organizations, that person has to write a letter of recommendation that has to be included with the application, along with your resume and the information, the little paragraph for SACE. So it's not an application that you can do in one day, and it does involve other people. So I encourage you to really make some personal contacts so that we can have these applications in by the 15th. And I know that SACE is legislatively documented on what process has to take place and who the representatives are. I'm not sure about the application procedure. I'll have to go back and look at them more closely for that. But on having the complete application, I know it has to have a complete application completed. So, but I'm not sure if that is a legislative thing. I'll have to go back and look at that legislation document to make sure about that. I'm sorry, I couldn't understand you. I'm sorry, I still did not understand the question. Dr. Leslie, can you repeat that question and see if I can understand it better?
Just to clarify, recap, two educator, two parents. Get your applications in by February 15th. Stacy. Sounds like Candace has already gotten those. So we're gonna look at as lady. Something that how we can read. The other question about Stacy.
Candace will also serve as the Title VI position for the we have to have 5 educators, and 1 educator has to be Title VI Indian Education Director. So Candace serves as the educator and the Title VI. But legislation says we have to have 5 parents and 5 educators. So on this round, we still need 2 parents and 2 educators to complete applications.
Thank you,
Stacy went back. So you know it too. Same application.
Stacy. This is Jeremiah. Just going to say I've shared on the application with a few folks in my community. Maybe so should be coming. So second. This is Calvin, second. Motion to adjourn. Please say aye. Safe. Home. Every weekend. student.